This is Volusia Today, a public information radio program brought to you by the County of Volusia.
Good morning and welcome to Volusia Today. I'm your host, David Hunt, with the county's Community Information Division, and I am joined by my co-host, Heather Belden.
Good morning.
How's it going? Are you staying dry?
Not really. Not the best weather, but that's okay.
It's been a wild week. It's still beautiful in Volusia County. It's not cold.
So it is not cold. It is not going to snow, so there's always that.
That's it. So we're going to do some news, county news, but before we get into that, if you're a beach lover, if you're a coastal homeowner, if you're a surfer, you're not going to want to miss this episode. See how I did a little cliffhanger there?
And if you're from West Volusia and you love to just go to the beach,
a beach lover.
I always got to put it out there for our West Volusia people.
Got it. So, Heather, you got some exciting stuff going on around the county, right?
Yeah, so I handle a lot of our parks and recreation information that goes out to the public, and they are doing some really cool things this holiday season. So, first up, our Parks, Recreation, and Culture Division have elves. That help Santa send postcards to all the children on the nice list.
Yeah, we have an in with Santa if everybody didn't know.
All you have to do is send an email to elves@volusia.org with your child's name and address, and that helps Santa know who's on the nice list, and you'll get a free postcard sent to your house.
It's super cool. I did it last year for my daughter, and she absolutely loved it.
It is really cool. They are for children 12 and under, and you have until December 8th. And this can also be found on our website, volusia.org.
Very nice.
Not even taking another break to talk about everything that's happening at DeBerry Hall. They are also a part of our Parks, Recreation, and Culture Division, and they've got holiday everything. So they have Breakfast with Santa on December 2nd, which is so cute. I went last year. You get to eat breakfast with the family, and then all the kids sit down and get a story told to them by Santa, and then they all get to take pictures with him, and it's actually just a really nice switch up from standing in line at the mall for an hour and getting your pictures with Santa. So you can find registration information as well on our website at volusia.org. And DeBerry Hall is having a holiday candlelight tour on December 8th and 9th, and they are also having holiday tea where you can go explore the mansion and have tea, and there's a bunch of decorations for Christmas. You can take pictures. I think the tours have hot cocoa. It's just such a cute place. If you haven't been, there is no better time than now to get out there. So
yeah, DeBerry Hall is definitely a hidden gem, and they have a bunch of hidden gem activities.
They really do. They always have something. So website, Facebook, you'll be able to find all the information.
For sure. Great job. And on some other news, county offices will be closed on November 23rd and 24th, and our next council meeting will be November 21st. I'm the beach guy, so if you are headed down to the beach this weekend, we got some waves. We've had a week of, call it victory at sea conditions. I don't know. It's been rough. So definitely if you're heading down to the beach, it might still be a little overcast. Who knows what the weather's going to do, but swim in front of a staff lifeguard tower. Download the Volusia Beaches app. That'll tell you where those staff lifeguard towers are. And just be careful, stay safe. And speaking of the beach, we have the two experts in the studio again. Jessica Fentress with the county's Coastal Division, and Niles Cyzycki with the Activity Project Manager with the Coastal Division as well. And you all have some exciting news for us, right?
Yeah.
Well, so just so people who don't know, we've had you in the studio probably 6 or 7 times following the hurricane impacts from last year, Nicole and Ian, kind of just walking us through the process. This has been your life for the last year?
Yeah, year and a month.
So what's the big news? What do we need to know?
This past county council meeting last week, we accepted an additional $40 million in zero match grant funding to put sand onto our beaches. So we are stoked about that. That brings us to a grand total of $82 million. $5 million was the emergency funding that Governor DeSantis gratefully gave to us. And then we've got $77 million that is tied directly to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection's Hurricane Resiliency and Recovery Grant Program. So we're pretty stoked about that.
So sand's coming to our beaches. We're going to see huge change on our beaches. When can we expect to see these changes?
Well, I'd love to say, summer of 2025.
Okay. And what do we need? Is that summer 2020?
4 and 25.
2024. Jessica, tell us what are your thoughts on the timeline? I know timeline's rough on the beach. Everything's always changing. There's a lot of moving parts, but what are your thoughts?
We're still going through our permitting process. If we can get our permits locked up, we hope to be offloading Rattlesnake Island to the New Smyrna beaches next summer. We don't anticipate the larger Army Corps of Engineers Florida Inland Navigation District dredge project to begin until winter of 24-25. But we are going to initiate our easement acquisition next week.
All right, so that's
a lot of big words.
Yeah, so
easement acquisition,
and that's what people need to know right now, correct? That's what people need to know, right? And who needs to know about easements?
So primarily, first and foremost, we are under a hard deadline by the Army Corps of Engineers where we have to have our Army Corps of Engineer easements, which allow the Army Corps and their contractors to temporarily stockpile sand on the beach. We have to have all those easements locked up by February 29th. We actually have a 29th of February this year. There are 52 properties ranging from Ocean View in Ponce Inlet all the way down to Lighthouse Point Park that are oceanfront that we need to get easements from to allow this project to move forward. Everybody outside of that area, we are looking for easement acquisition. If you want sand, we need an easement. Very specifically in New Smyrna, that project will go to construction first. We are going to have a website. It is out today. It got published on Thursday evening. www.volusia.org/sandprojects with an S on the end. Please go on that link. We're going to have a map where you can type in your personal address. You can see if you qualify for an easement, if your easement has been recorded, and if your neighbor hasn't written an easement. Go knock on your neighbor's door and say, hey, Dave, I want you to sign this easement so we can get some sand on our beach, and convince Dave to sign his easement for us.
So what does that all entail?
The signing of the easement? Yeah. Basically, the legal property owner, whether it's in just Jack and Jill's first names or a trust or an LLC, whoever is authorized to execute transactions on behalf of the owner, they have to legally sign the easement. So they have to sign it with 2 witnesses and a notary. The county and most of the oceanfront municipalities are also offering complimentary notary services. So you don't have to worry about a cost. You don't have to worry about tracking down 2 witnesses. And we'll also do complimentary drop-off. Instead of mailing it to DeLand and worrying about it getting lost in the postal service somewhere, if you want to drop it off at your municipal town hall or at beach headquarters at 515 South Atlantic Avenue, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., we'll be more than happy to collect it. If you are in a unique circumstance and you need the county to come to your house, we will help facilitate execution of the easement at your house.
So now I've done the work. I've listened to the radio. I've heard what this is all about. I've signed my easement. What's going to happen to my backyard?
It depends upon where you are. If you're in the very specific Army Corps of Engineers area between Ocean View and Lighthouse Point Park, the Army Corps of Engineers is going to run a pipe over the jetty, over the North Jetty. They're going to run it along the dune in Ponce Inlet up to Beach Street. They're going to bury the pipe under Beach Street, daylight the pipe so make it come out north of Beach Street. And from there, they're going to start placing sand on the beach to create more beach so that you can store the sand on top of that area. The county will then come in under a county contractor, so we also need a county easement as well. We will harvest that sand, basically load it up into dump trucks, and then the dump trucks will travel to whichever properties provide us easements and were most critically eroded. If you have already signed an easement for a trap bag and you are not south of Ocean View Avenue and Ponce Inlet, we're good. I don't need an additional easement to put sand on your beach.
And then, is this something now I've given you permission to do what you want in my backyard forever?
No, it is definitely not a permanent easement. It will not convey in perpetuity. Once the project is done, we will close out the easement. If you choose to keep the easement open, they are written for 5 years, I believe. If you choose to keep it open for 5 years, then if another sand opportunity comes, you are eligible. And
now, you're bringing in the sand. Is this going to be the same sand? Is it going to be similar? Is it going to be dirty?
Yeah, this project that Jessica's speaking about, the Army Corps project, is sand dredged from the inlet and the ICW adjacent to the inlet. So it's beach compatible sand. It's going to look a lot like the sand that's on the beach right now. In our instance, a lot of the sand is the same, where sand comes in the inlet from the south, and there's a constant maintenance issue with sand entering Ponce Inlet. And instead of depositing the sand offshore like they did in the past, we've worked with the Army Corps of Engineers and Florida Inland Navigation District to kind of stockpile some of the sand for reuse, right? You know, we'd like to see it placed right on the beach and kind of help with our shoreline protection, jump-starting our dunes rebuilding, give some people, you know, a good feel about protection from the ocean in the future.
So what is this actually going to look like? So is the sand going to be placed, like let's say residents got, like you walk on the beach right now, you see exposed seawalls. This is done, we got the easement, I'm a resident, I got my easement. What is this actually going to look like if I got sand?
So we're looking at something like 18 cubic yards a foot, which doesn't mean anything to someone who hasn't seen one of these projects, right? Basically, there's going to be sand up to the cap of the seawall.
Oh, wow.
Maybe a 10-to-1 slope, you know, down, maybe 100 feet of slope. So it's going to change, but it'll be so gradual that, you know, it's not like we're going to make a steep beach or an undrivable beach, right? It's really to jumpstart the sand accumulation against the walls. Is it going to look exactly like it did before the storms? Not necessarily. You know what I mean? This is kind of almost a Band-Aid. We lost almost 600,000 cubic yards from our on-beach and near-shore system.
6 million.
Sorry, 6 million. Yep, 6 million cubic yards.
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. And, you know, this project's maybe 700,000 cubic yards, right? So just a drop in the bucket, really. The next project is the project to the south. That's where we're offloading Rattlesnake Island, which is a DMMA dredge management material area adjacent to Rockhouse Creek, and that's 500,000 cubic yards, right? So these are just kind of the first two projects that we can make happen. The county, with our consultants, are investigating additional sand sources, right, to kind of make up, you know, what's left of what we lost and try and restore the beach. It's difficult to do it, you know, through dredging projects. It's going to take time to rebuild a beach that lost 6 million cubic yards.
Well, yeah, and I'm just visualizing in my head what it looks like now, and then you're talking, I don't know, 8-foot high sand dunes, 100 foot. So that's like a lot of sand. It's going to look different.
It's going to look different. It's going to look much improved, but you know, we need some cooperation from the storms and stuff. It can go away as fast as it comes. You know what I mean? And
sand is sacrificial.
Yeah,
that's what everybody needs to know.
This
sand
is not permanent, and we will not permanently maintain it. Just because it goes away in front of your house on a Tuesday, it doesn't mean it's coming back on Thursday. You know, we can't afford to just constantly do this until we get a real sand project going, and that's another thing that we've got in the works.
Well, that's awesome that we got it funded, correct? It's not coming out of the Volusia County coffers, or how does that work?
It's 100% coming out of the state budget.
That's awesome.
Our elected officials who represent us in Tallahassee were extremely supportive of Volusia's recovery efforts, along with our neighbors in Flagler, Lee, Pinellas, and Southwest Florida. So from our local representatives, we could not have more support in Tallahassee right now.
And let's just talk about one more time the importance of the easements, because I remember back when the hurricanes happened, a big issue is, like, let's say there's a seawall and then there was a breach in the seawall, and then the water was then able to get behind the seawall, and then all surrounding properties kind of got affected by that. Is that the same with the sand? Like, let's say we got one house that's got a sand easement, another one, and then there's one in the middle that doesn't. Could that cause negative impacts?
Yeah, here's the reality of the situation. Just like anything that's supposed to provide you protection, if you have a weak point, that's where the water's going to get in. Whether it's your land and where you've got ponding, whether it's a road and you get ponding. Think about the ocean. If the ocean comes in with a tide and there isn't a continuous dune system, the ocean will go through the area that doesn't have a dune, so the breach in the dune. And then it just doesn't go in and come out. It goes in and then it goes behind the existing dunes and starts affecting the neighboring properties. And then it'll come out. And when it goes in and goes behind those dunes, now you're starting to erode the sand that we already placed. So by having a comprehensive dune that has no breaks, you're in effect providing your property and your neighbor's property with better level of protection.
And that's important,
awesome.
right?
Yeah.
That's why you say if you have a neighbor, tell your neighbor, because it is really a community effort. Ideally, we have all of the easements across the board.
I know, and I sympathize, and I'm kind of in that camp where you don't trust everything the government says, but you may trust your neighbors. So we're being as transparent as possible. We're putting all the information out on volusia.org/sand projects to try and build that trust with our community. So we sell the expectation that you will receive. if you have questions, I urge you to call us. We're more than happy to have a conversation with any oceanfront property owner and answer all their questions. We've got attorneys that are available if you have more legal questions about ramifications or length or maybe sales and transactions. We've got right-of-way agents who are available who are very well versed in how to notarize something properly, the document, your rights as a property owner. Go to volusia.org/sand projects, and you've got all the contact information there. We are willing to spend the time with any property owner to be as transparent as possible and get the truth out there. I don't want the rumor mill to run rampant either. So if you hear something that sounds a little shady, please let us know, because we will help correct the misinformation that might get out.
Yeah, visit the website, right?
Yes.
A lot of stuff's going to be on there. So I think that's a good time to take a break. We'll be back with more Volusia Today.
We are Volusia County Beach Safety. We're here to serve Volusia County's 47 miles of unique coastline. You know, Volusia County beaches. Yeah, those beaches. But also these beaches. We have millions of visitors every year, and we work around the clock to keep our beaches safe and beautiful. And you can help.
Swim near a staff lifeguard tower.
Pick up your trash and fill holes. Identify, avoid, and escape rip currents.
Please leave the beach cleaner than you found it.
There we go. Look out for one another and keep an eye on kids, especially near the traffic lane and in the water.
Pets are allowed at our 2 pet-friendly beaches, Lighthouse Point Park and Smyrna Dunes Park.
If you see something, say something.
A clean and safe beach guarantees fun in the sun for everyone. Thank you for doing your part to keep Volusia County beaches beautiful. See you at the beach!
Make the most of your day at the beach. Download the Volusia County Beaches app today. Sign up for real-time notifications on vehicle ramp openings and closings. Find staffed lifeguard towers. Get updates on tides and beach conditions, plus off-beach parking and coastal parks info. Volusia County Beaches app is available for your smart devices at the App Store and Google Play.
All right, we're back. Thank you for listening to Volusia Today. I'm Heather Belden along with David Hunt with your Community Information Division. We have our coastal experts in-house today, Jessica and Niles, and we're talking about getting our beaches back a little bit to what they looked like before. And so we're talking about some easement projects they have coming up on our entire coastline. If you go to this website that we're talking about, there is some differentiation between north and south. Can you talk a little bit about what's different about these projects?
Maybe say the website one more time, too.
What is that?
Well, there you go, Jessica.
Was that a quiz?
Yeah, exactly.
www.volusia.org/sand projects. There is an S at the end of it. Sand projects, plural.
Yep.
When you go to that website, you will end up in kind of like a landing page to tell you about both projects, brief description, and then if it's not there, it will be there very soon, where you can real-time search your property and see what easements you are eligible for, or if you've already executed an easement, you can confirm that it is legally executed and accepted. Off of that main page, you have 2 links, one for the North Project, one for the South Project. The North Project is everything north of Ponce de Leon Inlet to approximately North Daytona, South Ormond. And then the South Project is everything south of Sapphire Avenue in New Smyrna, all the way down to unincorporated Van Cleek, New Smyrna area.
And so is there a reason these projects are being treated differently?
Well, there's an existing sand source, almost 500,000 cubic yards in the DMMA, right? The Rattlesnake Island, or MSA 434S DMMA, Dredge Management Material Area. So we're going to slurry that sand, basically liquefy it, right? Push it into the water, and then dredge it in one spot. Goes through a pipeline, goes down Sapphire Road and onto the beach. And then they'll use the pipeline, they'll add on sections of the pipeline to extend the sand south down the beach, right? So it's a pump project mainly. There's not trucks involved, right? They just use a pipeline which shoots water and sand on the beach. The water, seeps into the sand, drains into the ocean, and the sand is left. Then they use machinery, equipment to shape that sand. So that's one project. The other project is an actual dredge project of the channel and the inlet, and that sand will be shot on the beach and stockpiled. The Corps of Engineers is only willing to give us the sand. They're not willing to place it up and down the beach, right? They're gonna say, here's 700,000 cubic yards of sand in a pile. Our intention is to harvest that sand using equipment and trucks, so that as that sand starts to stockpile, we're taking it almost at the same time. So we don't end up with a big pile of sand that could be vulnerable to a storm event or something like that. So that's the only difference. The project to the south is a pumping project, right? And the project to the north is a trucking project, where we'll haul the sand via trucks, dump it behind properties, and then shape it at that time. So that's kind of the difference. The difference is one's kind of an active dredging project of an inlet. The other is moving a sand source from one location to another using dredging equipment.
Does this impact beachgoers? Like, is it in the way?
Yeah,
or?
I mean, now there'll be plenty of open beach access, and it won't be permanent closures, but there will be, temporary inconveniences to, access and beach driving, right? There's going to be a pipeline laying on the beach, and they're going to be shaping sand. It's going to be an active construction site. But as the project moves along, those areas that have already been improved will turn, will be back open to the public, in a reasonable amount of time. So, and with the trucking project, there'll be trucks, traveling, north from the Ponce Inlet area, the main area of the stockpile, for a long period of time. But once sections of the beach are improved, they'll be back open to the public. You know what I mean? It's a temporary inconvenience, and that's what most construction is. You know what I mean? It's for the greater good of the future. So if the community will just be flexible and and be aware of what's going on, this is for the best. So any temporary closures are just that.
Now, we're talking a lot temporary closures and temporary easements. What about the long term? How do we make this a beach that we can all enjoy for our grandchildren, and beyond?
So we recognize that we need a long-term beach management and resiliency plan. As part of the FDEP grant that we received, we're required to go through this process to basically set up our beach management plan for the next 50 years, the next couple of generations that we have. And it's not something, if the county just decides that we're going to do A, B, C, D, and E without any impact from the community, it's not going to go over well. We're going to have a significant amount of public outreach. We've got 5 coastal municipalities and a couple of unincorporated areas. We're going to have meetings in every one of our municipalities. We're going to have an online presentation and survey, so that if you own property here but you can't make the meeting or you don't live locally, you can still give your input. Daytona Beach is known for its vehicle driving on the beach. So we know that is near and dear to our community. I believe we can still have a long-term resiliency plan for Daytona Beach while keeping our beach driving. What works for Ponce Inlet will not work for Daytona Beach. What works for New Smyrna will not work for Ormond by the Sea. And not only is it community-based, but it's also the physical characteristics of the beach. If you get onto Bethune Beach, they've got a significant amount of sand, so much that we had 4 feet of it stockpiled in our right-of-ways after Hurricane Nicole, where if you go to Daytona Core, you've got a very powdery white crystal silicate that allows us to have beach driving for like a 1984 Nissan Sentra. That is unheard of. We will take a data approach to what our long-term solutions are. We will take the feedback from the community. And let's just theoretically say that one community wants to have a football field wide of powdery snow or powdery sand before the water ever impacts it. That's called a beach nourishment plan. That's a lot of sand. We're talking millions of cubic yards of sand. Those come in a very expensive cost. So we're going to use a data approach to this. We're going to take feedback from the community. We're kind of going to rank the alternatives. Everything is on the table, from full-on beach nourishment, which is a big sand placement project, to innovative solutions like artificial reefs and groins and structural modifications. Maybe we combine them and do a multi-approach where we do a sand placement and then we put an artificial reef in to prolong the life of our sand placement. That needs to be modeled. It needs to be science-based off of our very unique coastal topography and our very unique sand profile. What works for New Jersey will not work for Volusia County. What works in South Florida will not work for Volusia County. What works in Flagler will not work for Volusia County. It needs to be hyper-focused on our community as a whole, but then also the physical characteristics of our beach to include the slope, the grain size, the color, and the sand and shell content.
So when are we looking to hear? When do you want our input? When is that going to come up? How do we hear about that? When you want to hear from us about what we want to see?
So we're going to take a task assignment to council in January. We're anticipating the possibility of a one council meeting December. So just conservatively, we're going to say January out there. And then we're hoping to have a year turnaround on this project. So probably spring and summer, I would start being on the lookout. And that's probably good timing, because people are in town. Your locals are very attentive to what's going on the beach and dynamics. So I think we'll get a heavy response period during that time. We are wrapping up our annual post summer survey, which basically takes a field survey where you go from the toe of dune or the top of the seawall all the way out to 30 feet of water depth. So we will know where our sand is. Is it just offshore? Is there a possibility it can come back? If it's in the nearshore breaker area, there's a very good possibility it will come back onto the beach. We saw that this summer. We've had a lot of setbacks with this past, 3 weeks of nor'easters, but beaches live in centuries. They don't live week to week. You have to look at a beach in a long-term approach. You can't just say, hey, we're going to fix this and we're going to be good. It doesn't work that way. We have to take the modeling, we have to take our site-specific characteristics, and we have to see how long it will last. And then we got to put a dollar amount to it. Can you afford the filet mignon, or do you need to go with the chuck steak?
I like chuck. Sometimes.
Chuck is awesome if you cook it right.
Chuck has a really good.
Filet's overpriced.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Well, let's take one quick break, and we'll come back and wrap this episode of Volusia Today up.
Subscribe to the Volusia County YouTube channel.
And hit the bell icon to know what's happening in your hometown.
There are so many great places to explore.
And things to learn.
With over 1,000 videos available right now, the channel offers something for everyone.
Let's go!
Did you know we have countless features showcasing history, nature, wildlife, and recreation? Subscribe and hit the bell icon.
Or that we live stream important county meetings and workshops where leaders make decisions that can impact our everyday lives. Did you subscribe yet?
Or that we record our weekly radio show, Volusia Today, where we interview staff from the different divisions and departments across our great county, and they discuss the nitty-gritty of their field and expertise.
Go ahead, subscribe.
But that's not it. There's more. Subscribe and hit the bell icon and fully explore.
Score!
We're back with Volusia Today. We only got about 30 seconds left. Jessica, hit us with leaving comments. What do we need to know?
Please go to volusia.org/sand projects with an S on the end. We will be updating it real time. Our intent is to be as transparent as possible with both projects and the grant funding. There is an option to sign up for a newsletter. I promise we won't spam your inbox. We will only send you content that is new. We'll try to send emails very infrequently, only when we update the website. So get on there, talk to your neighbors, call us if you have questions.
And that's all we got today. Get out and enjoy Volusia County.